Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me this late at night. It's 9 p.m. I know it's almost dinner time for most of us. So please do share with me where you are joining us from, and it would be nice to have an interaction with you to understand what your questions are. So today we are having this session just after the end of round one, almost the end of round one, and the interviews. Are going on. The essays have already been submitted. So we are looking at the round two deadlines like almost around the corner. It's like almost a month now, actually. Exactly. 3rd of December is when you go in for your round two submissions for the ISB PGP applications. So, what do we have here today? So, what we have here today is a presentation of all the things that we have garnered from the changes that have happened around. ISB has changed their essays. There are new things on the block in terms of what the expectations are. There is an optional essay this time which was never there before. So what is it exactly, and what are the lessons from round one that we would like to share with you for your round two and round three applications? So today we are going to discuss a short introduction, of course, about us and seen, which have hampered the process and prolonged the process of writing stellar essays for applicants. Then a discussion about generic essays. What is generic and how do you qualify a generic essay? ISB has two mandatory essays. There is a strengths and weakness essay and there is a success and failure essay. So we'll be going into those and looking at what specifically is important for all of those, and of course answering your questions simultaneously. So keep on please sharing your questions simultaneously during this process. I'll be happy to take them up. And while you are all joining us from different parts of India, do share with us where you are joining us from. It will be nice to hear from you. Right. So we are GoalISB and we are ISB admissions consultants. And some round one updates for from us are that we have achieved around 92% interview calls for ISB, PGP, and IIM across the board. And in terms of the interview calls for applicants who have been close to the average test scores, our results have been around 100%. And what we have compiled today is a presentation to discuss the do's and don'ts for the ISB essays for applicants who are going ahead in the next phase of the application cycle. So, what are some common mistakes that you need to be aware of? And why are we not talking about do's? Why are we talking about don'ts? So, for do's, you know that you have to write an essay, you have to come in with your stories, you have the essay questions, you have an application deadline. So, all of this is there with you. But then, how do you actually come across with, come up with an essay which is stellar, which is a standout, which shows your unique story? That is where a lot of things can go wrong, and we want you to make a checklist out of this discussion that we are having today, which will really bring up a list of common mistakes that people have been doing over the past, which we have seen have, let's say, gone into wasting time in terms of drafting good essays. So let's just see what we should not do, and you all know what we should do. So that's why we are taking up the common mistakes first. Okay, so in terms of the common mistakes, what is the most prominent one and what is the most prevalent one is a generic essay. A generic essay is when I do not have anything specific to talk about. What makes my essay generic is, of course, lacking specifics. Specifics about what? About my story, about the interactions that I have had in real time, about the experiences that I have had in real time. So this is what makes the essays generic. And the next part of a mistake is overusing buzzwords. What are the common buzzwords that you would, usually avoid is I have been a thought leader in a dynamic environment, or let's say, I have a lot of global perspective to bring to the table. So these are all buzzwords which are, yes, very important when you're telling a unique story. You might have had international experience, but is this the best way of putting it across? Is something that you need to, come up with when you are actually drafting your ISPSs. Being overly positive or negative. So when you're coming up with a situation, are you taking a very extreme stand on it? Are you totally positive about it and are you totally negative about it? That always has certain repercussions. So you must always analyze your stories from the point of view of the learnings that you have had, from the point of view of things that you want to put across to the reader. So in terms of your experience is one thing, after all, but what are the takeaways that you have? Are you totally positive about it? Is there nothing that is usually when we have experiences, we have gray areas. There are areas where we learn from, there are areas where we grow as a personality. So what are these for you? Another common mistake that I would like to talk about over here is a poor structure. So when you're drafting your ISB essays, or any MB essays actually, look at the structure that you're following. So having a plan upfront is always going to be beneficial for your essays. And a lot of times what happens is the essay topics, they have many branches. There will be many parts to the ISB essay. So ignoring the question's second part, you're focusing too much on the first part. Let's say it is a strengths and weakness essay or a success and failure essay. You're focusing too much on the success and you do ignore the second part, which is, let's say, the failure or the weakness. That finally will land you up with an unbalanced essay, with an unbalanced portrayal of your personality, which is something that you need to take care of when you are starting with your drafts initially. A lot of times we see the draft essays which are too focused on achievement. So we do not need an essay which is a rewrite of your resume. So let us assume that an essay is going to be a story, it's going to be an experience that you have had, and there would be some takeaways and some things that you have learned as a professional from there. So each of the essays or everything in the application does not have to be about the accomplishments that you have had. There are specific areas of the application which address the accomplishments. So you do not need to actually go ahead and really put forward your accomplishments in the essays as well. If you are putting forward one, let's say it's a success story, then focus on other aspects, provide sufficient context into it, and add the story part of it. Not Don't focus on just rerunning your resume as a part of the essay. So there's a lot of discussion about your essays should not be generic. Make sure your essay looks very generic. There's a feedback session. You get your essay reviewed by someone, and he says your essays look very generic. What exactly is a generic essay? A generic essay will be something, a narrative which will lack personal connection. When I'm reading your essay, do I really connect with you as an individual and as a professional? Do I really put myself in your shoes and see that what you've experienced and understand your journey from there? If that is so, then it is not a generic essay. If that is not the case, then you do feel that you have a generic essay and you need to work on the specifics. We have Rommel joining us. Thank you, Rommel. It's nice to have you here. Any update on the ISB result state? So for the R1 result state, the latest update is that it will be mid of November sometime. So let's keep our fingers crossed and wait for another 10 to 15 days. I think it should be there anytime. As far as coming back to our generic essays, we have some industry specific terms which we do need to put in when we are looking at a certain narrative. If it is a narrative that requires you to talk about your industry, a certain workplace experience that you're talking about, it is fine, you use that. But given the word limit that you have these days, you need to be very clear as to how much of the industry specific jargon will you use, and then will the reader be able to connect with it. So a broad audience which is not from the same industry, will they be able to understand it? That is something that you need to see. A repetition of your resume is a total no. We definitely don't advise you to just look at your resume. And a lot of times applicants think that, okay, the adcom might miss on my achievements, let me just reassert my achievements here. If it is relevant to the essay question, you can definitely pick it up, go ahead with the story. Your essay will be a complement to your resume, but don't make it a rewrite of your resume. There's a very thin line of bifurcation in that. Similarly, when you are narrating a certain event or an incident for a certain essay topic, then in that case, you have to also consider how those experiences have shaped you as an individual. What are your goals and perspectives that you really redrafted after this particular experience? Is this Why are you even narrating this event in the first place? What is your takeaway from there as an individual? All of these will make your essays very, very personalized. And talking about your own story to the adcom, your essay must, when somebody is reading your essay, it must seem as if we are reading your part of the narrative in terms of the things that you have taken away from the incident. So the keeping in mind all of these aspects for an essay will really help you draft very stellar essays. So avoid generic essays at all costs. Buzzwords. Any guesses as to what your favorite buzzword is? What I have seen in terms of buzzwords is leadership skills. I have been working with diverse teams. I bring to the cohort a global perspective, and I have learned invaluable lessons from this particular experience, an X experience or a Y experience. So if all of these are things that you are using in your essay, just mark them in red and go back into the story and see what exactly is the impact that you had. Do you really want to use the buzzword, or is there something more specific that you can talk about? So let's say you want to become a thought leader. So what is the specific area of expertise that you bring to the table? Is there an industry where you have an expertise or you want to lead in the future? That would make it more specific. Saying that I am a team player and I am a learner and I have been learning all of this, I have got profound insights. These are all buzzwords that we hear and read day in and day out. Try and make them yours by sharing your stories, by sharing your teamwork, and demonstrate your collaboration skills. So you talk about that specific incident where you actually went ahead and did something, which will again be a show and tell. So that is much more appreciated than using a buzzword. Yes, a buzzword is a short form for that whole of the incident that you want to talk about, but it doesn't carry a lot of value or a personalization from the reader's point of view. So if you have to use one, it is not it is not mandatory that you completely avoid using buzzwords. But if you are using one, then do validate it and strengthen it with specific examples. That will be very important from the point of view of the reader associating with your narrative. Guys, wherever you are joining us from, please keep on sharing your questions. I'll be happy to take them up with respect to the specific ISB essays or anything that you want to discuss with respect to your profiles as well. So, coming to the ISB essay 1, which is about strengths and weaknesses and a personal journey that you have had, with respect to your strengths and weaknesses. So what is it that you can do? How do you start with this essay? So to start with this essay is requires a lot of introspection. So don't limit your discussion to just your professional strengths and weaknesses. Don't only assert that you are an expert in an X language and you've been a product manager for a Y product. So you have space to talk about your professional skills, but what about your personal strengths? What about you as an individual? ISB is very much interested in understanding you, your personality as an individual, and the experiences that have shaped you. So this essay is the place for you to bring up your personal journey. So personalize, introspect first, bring up all your stories, and then personalize. Be self reflective. Look at what your application strategy is. Hi, Richa. Thank you for joining us. It's almost dinner time, and it's nice to have you here. So if you have any questions, feel free to share with me right now. I'll be happy to take it up. Right. So coming back to the essay one, it's when you have introspected and you have your laundry list of strengths and weaknesses that you want to talk about, go ahead and see as to which one is the best that defines you, which strength is the one that will really help you stand out as an applicant as well, and how do you want to present your strengths and weaknesses. Whenever you are writing an essay, make sure that you have real life examples, and your narrative will outshine just with your own story coming into the picture. Hi Soumya. 2 weeks is still enough time to pen down a good essay as R2 end is near. Yes, Soumya, I think it is good enough time. You just need to spend enough time in terms of the introspection part. If you have your plan and application strategy ready, in that case it will become a breeze writing the essays. essays these days are not supposed to be a piece of literature. It's supposed to be a piece of you, your story, and things that you would like to talk to the adcom about. So, if you've done the introspection, you know the things that you want to talk about in terms of your strengths and weaknesses. I think that is the most important part. Post that, it is like penning down your thoughts and just crystallizing them, because you have very limited word space now. So get down to it and you'll definitely be able to make it. I hope that answers your question. Richa says, I'm looking for the PGP Pro program as I'm currently working in Philips as a software developer. So, Richa, the PGP Pro program is slightly different from the PGP program for the point of view of that the format is slightly different. So, for the PGP Pro program, the classes are alternate weekend on campus or on the location that they have ascertained. And apart from that, you will have the takeaways as any ISB curriculum. So the program is interactive. You will have a great cohort to go and gel with and learn from. So in case you have any specific questions about the PGP Pro program or the application process, I'll be able to address them right now as well for you. Right. So coming to the next part of our discussion is about what doesn't work. So what doesn't work is, a cookie cutter response. What worked for someone else, will that work for you? I ask a few friends, okay, guys, you got admitted to ISB, share your essays with me. Let me just go through, what you had written, and can I just rephrase and use parts of those experiences for my own essay? I really don't see that working out. It needs to be your story, be authentic with your stories. And thank you, Soumya. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. And looking forward to connecting with you. Feel free to reach out to us. You'll have all the contact details on our website. So just Google it out. I think you'll have all the details there. Right. So the cookie cutter response is something that you should totally avoid when you're looking at the ISBSs. It might work for a few people, but generally it won't, because it doesn't bring out your story. And when I have to talk about my strengths and weaknesses all in 400 words, that means I have, if you're balancing it really, you don't have more than 200 words to talk about. So if you have a clear thought process, that is where you will make the cut. That is where you will be able to really, put your thoughts across in a very clear manner in 200 words. Writing in short is a challenge. Writing in lengthy words is very easy these days. So that avoid taking up sample essays and people's templates and trying to draft your own. Just go ahead with your own story, trust your own story. That will bring up a much more refreshing as well as an original essay, which you will be surprised how well it works. Okay, what doesn't work is a generic praise for ISB. So ISB, I'm sure everybody at ISB knows they are a great school. They have a great campus. They have great faculty. They have a great curriculum. Do you have anything else apart from that to talk about? If yes, then be specific as to why you need ISB, how ISB is going to help you. This is something that will really work for you, because when a lot of people are coming up with their essays, they are actually people who have not researched enough. So if you are someone who has put in the research, this is the place, these essays are the place where you show that research and where you put across your message that, okay, I know how ISB will benefit me, and this is how I'm going to utilize this program for my career goals. Hi, Ashutosh. So you have around now 9 years of experience, and what are the chances of my profile? So Ashutosh, I don't know a lot of your profile, except for that you have 9 years of experience. If experience is something that is pulling you down, don't worry. We've had people with 8+ years of experience going in year on year since the last so many years. So I don't think it should be a problem. The point is that you should be very clear as to what you expect from ISB, how it is going to be important for your career goals. If that is clear and you have your GMAT scores or your GRE scores in place, then just go ahead and put in your application. So, in case you want to share more details of your profile, you can just get in touch with me on our website, or you can share it here. I can address it right now as well. Richa, I guess it's not necessary to give the GMAT for PGP Pro. So, what is it that I should consider while filling up the application? So, Richa, if you look at the ISB PGP Pro application, it does not require the GMAT. So, you do not actually need to go into it. And even if you do that, it is not going to add a lot of value. So, don't get into the GMAT game at all. And focus on putting across your story well. I do not know how many years of experience you have, but let's say you are someone who has around 8 years of experience or plus, then compiling all of that experience with the proper narrative for a 400 words essay is going to be a challenge, and that is what is important for you for the PGP Pro application. Another thing that you require for the PGP Pro application would be the 13 years. 13 years is huge. You have a lot to talk about. You have to really prioritize. You have to choose which one will make, will be able to, which of your experiences will communicate your story the best, and why you want the ISB PGP Pro. So, all of this is going to be an important part of your 400 words main essay. Apart from that, you need two letters of recommendation, and you need to fill up the application form, which, if you just look through it very carefully, it gives you 300 words per work experience to talk about the work that you have done, apart from the usual, three lines of job description and three lines of achievements. So if you go into the depth of the PGP Pro application, that has a lot of work and a lot of homework that you need to do before you really get down to filling that application. So this is the preparation that is required. Ishmeet, nice to see you here. ISB being a 1 year program is crucial for me as a decision making reason. Understood. Is this a reason that I can use? Of course, I'll craft it as per my story. It is a valid reason, Nishmit. Now, what you have in your story to talk about is something that is very, that is very personalized. So, if you have enough to talk about, then go ahead and do that. It's a valid reason. It is a 1 year program, and it has a lot of opportunity cost as well as an ROI to give you. So if you can validate that and explain that in your narrative, go ahead and do that. Unnati, what's the ideal time that one should give on their PGP application, including essays? So, Unnati, if we look at R1, we started with the R1 applicants in, let's say, mid July or end of June, and the application was due in September. So, it depends on you. It totally depends on the introspection that you want to put in. It totally depends on the time that you have from your work engagements, and what is the kind of support system you have at work, at home, and in terms of putting your story together. It depends on that. We have had applications going in 15 days being successful. We have had applications going in 4 or 5 weeks being successful. Totally depends on your engagements and your, the routine that you follow as an individual. Some people like to work on it slowly. So, for example, when we start working on the applications, we have a detailed questionnaire that takes you around 5 to 7 days to fill up. So if you are just keeping 5 or 7 days, I would really not have time to brainstorm a lot with you. So if you are looking at a lot of brainstorming, keep at least 30 to 45 days. That will give you ample bandwidth to manage your work as well as the brainstorming and coming up with good essays. Nitya, suggestion as to I have a 650 on the GMAT and 2.3 years as an analyst. Nitya, a high GMAT score, or let's say a GMAT score which is close to the average GMAT score of the school, is going to be an important input into your application. It is going to add you to your strength as an applicant. Having a 650 on the GMAT is not a very strong score. And if you are resting with the 650, that means you are resting with a substandard score with respect to what the school expects. As an analyst, you have 2.3 years of experience. I'm assuming that is all the experience that you have. At 2.3 years, if you are looking at a top B school in India, you should be targeting a higher GMAT score. That will definitely add value to your application. GMAT versus the essay, saying that great essays will leave a mark and that will substantiately let's say, circumvent the GMAT score or a lesser GMAT score. That is not the case. When you are coming from a certain work profile, you have to look at what everybody else around you is scoring. At 2.3 years of experience, people are very agile. They are coming up with scores like 710, 700, and more than that. So it is you versus the competition. So what is your competition at 2 or 2.3 years of work experience scoring? Do you have a competitive GMAT score vis-a-vis those? That is the question over here, not the essays versus the GMAT. You need strong essays anyways. If you have a 740 or a 780 GMAT, even then you need strong essays. So don't counter one against the other, but once you're working on the GMAT, make sure that you have your competitive best. And then when you come to the application, you make sure you have your competitive best. That is how you can compete at the level of applying to an ISB, or let's say an IM later on. Later on, you don't qualify for IMs, but when you are looking at the topmost schools in India, then you know how Indians are, they score very high. So I would really suggest retake on the GMAT and wait till you get the right GMAT score. Ishmeet has a follow up which says, I come from a middle class this and background, which is the reason a 1 year MBA is crucial. Understood and very valid. Should I be this honest? You can be. There is pity seeking versus being honest. Again, there is a thin line. Communication is always a very thin line. You have to decide as to where you stop. So writing is a skill, communication is a skill, communication on paper and communication in person is an art. So you have to take a call on what you are communicating. But yes, it is an honest reason and it is a valid reason. You can go ahead with that. That is what I would say over here. Vineet, how are the chances for reapplicants? So chances for reapplicants, Vineet, are great. Let me tell you, the guys who were reapplicants that I was working with, they actually got their interview calls in the first week of the interview scheduled by ISB. So don't really worry on your chances as a reapplicant, but make sure you have ample im- improvement to show as a reapplicant. So if it is the GMAT or the GRE score, if it is your profile, if it is your learning curve, what is it that you have to show as a reapplicant, that is going to be very, very important. I've had my reapplicants going in on the week one for the interview, so I really cannot complain about it. I hope that answers your question. If you have anything specific, please do feel free to reach out. MG is a narrative that goes like, I like to be good at whatever I do, possible to weave in an application. What would that portray lack of clarity? So MG, I'm sure that you will have ample stories or examples to go ahead with this. If I look at it from a statement point of view, I like to be good at whatever I do. I take you for your word, but then show me what you have. So if you are able to give me ample examples and ample things to talk about from for substantiating the statement that you have, I'm in for it. Hi Hita, hi Anthony, nice to have you here. I have a query regarding my profile. So Anthony, you can share your profile, I'll just look into it. Vineet, can I compensate low academic score with a high GMAT and excellent work experience? Yes, I do believe you can. Then again, the my question is, how low is your academic score? So a low can be in many ways, so we have to get into the specifics before we decide on that. But more or less, if you say that it is reasonably low and you have a reasonably high GMAT above the average of the school, then you can assume that it will be compensated. Again, there's no number that I can give to you that there's an 80% guarantee or a 50% guarantee, but still, um, I can substantially vouch for it. So Anthony, I have a query. I have a GMAT of 690 and plan to take a retake of 720 plus. Very nice. 6 years work experience and 3 years in developmental journalist and then marketing. What are my chances? See, Sandhini, this seems like the prediction game. So prediction. Let us leave the prediction game to the gurus of the world. There is this Bageshwar Baba these days. So I'll not get into that. I'll look into the specifics. 690 on a GMAT is good enough. If you can get 720 plus, very nice. Please go ahead and do that. 6 years of experience, first 3 years as developmental journalist, then marketing. I am sure these 6 years would have given you ample things to talk about. Again, introspection is key over here. What are you going to talk about in your essays? There are two aspects to a profile. One is the numbers and one is the story. Story is what you build out of your experiences when you're working on the essays on the rest of the application. Numbers is what you're coming with, that is your academics as well as the GMAT score. 690 is close to the average, the average being around 710 or 720. If you get a 710 or 720, that is going to be any day better than a 690. So look at your chances from that point of view. Your chances of getting into ISB are always 50%, given the fact that it is a long process. You first get through the GMAT, get a good GMAT score, then you have to have a strong application. There are people who have been reapplicants at 337 GRE, at 740 GMAT, just because they could not, vouch for their application in the interview. So the third part that is going to be most important is the interview. So there are three equally important parts. One cannot rest for the other. When you are planning for a topmost MBA school in India, you have to make sure that all of these are competitive, at least to your caliber. So, to the best that you can do, try and see that you max it at every level and go ahead with the application process. A lot of prediction will really not solve it for you. You have to take a chance at some point in time. Rajshri, a GRE of 321 is not a very strong GRE. I have 2 years at EY and 2 years as fellow at Teach for India. I have a good national level extracurriculars. Can I still try R2? So, Rajshri, technically, you do qualify for trying R2. A lot of things also depend on what your post MBA career goals are. You have been a fellow for Teach for India. So, what is it exactly that you want to do post MBA? As far as your GRE is concerned, it is not very strong. The average is around 328 to 330. So being within that range will really help you. If you think you have maxed at 321 and you still want to apply, then look at the other aspects and put up your application. You can still try R2. Trying is not a problem. The results nobody can predict. So don't get into the prediction game. Get into the application, try and see what you can max at, and just go ahead with the process. Again, the being a reapplicant is never a problem, given that you have addressed those areas that need to be worked on as a reapplicant. Ishmeet, see, I sent an application for R2 due to whatever reason the application did not go through. No, you cannot apply in R3 again. In one application cycle, R1, R2, or R3, you can only apply once. You can decide as to when you want to put in your application. You can put in an application only once. Nikita, I have a work ex of around 5 years in core finance and cleared CFA level 2. I have a GMAT score of 650, but I am currently preparing for GMAT again. Please do that. Could you please suggest what score would be required for my profile? So there is no score that is required for any X profile. But if you are looking for a competitive score, always go with the benchmark of the school average for the Indian schools. For the international schools, go with the school average plus 20 points. You being an international applicant for an international school, you need to be above the average of the usual applicants that are there, the domestic applicants. Indians score very well on the GMAT. That is a plus, and that is a minus for the others who are not able to. So that is where your competition lies, even in Indian applications or in the international applications. So if you are currently preparing for the GMAT, even if you apply at 6 years of experience with a 700 GMAT, I'll be happier with putting up the application rather than 5 years and 650 GMAT. Max it up at every level. You are applying to the topmost school in India, so see that you have reached your max and that is where you belong. You don't want to go beyond that, so that is when you start choosing your schools. We need 65%. I don't know where this is coming from. Please give me some more context into your question. Even though one essay is optional, any advantage in attempting all three? The advantage in attempting all three is that if you are very clear of what you want from the school and what your career goals are, it is always important that you should attempt the optional essay. So if you're not very clear and you still need more time to research, then go ahead and don't attempt the essay and spend the time on researching and fairing out as to exactly where you want to go ahead. But there is no brownie points on attempting an optional essay with a substandard attempt. It is always good that you should have thorough clarity and then attempt the optional essay. It's worthwhile doing that. As far as our results are concerned in terms of interview, I think people have chosen not to write the optional essay, people have chosen to write the optional essay, and we have had equivalent results. It is all on the application strategy as a whole, not on the specific essay. Writing a specific essay or not writing one will not land you up in a different position with respect to your application. Nikita, I have 750 GMAT score with 2 years of experience, and by the time the B school will start, I have 3 years of experience, 8.96 GPA. Do you suggest me to apply this year for ISB? Yes, why not? You should apply. 750 is a good GMAT score to apply with. And if you have fair clarity of where you want to go post your MBA and you think you have enough to talk about in terms of your work experience, this is a good time to apply. Why not? If there's a specific question with respect to this, to let me know. I'll be able to address that in a better way. Anish, how does applying to round three affect the chances of shortlisting? So this is a very good question. Round two versus round three of the ISB application, it or round one versus round two versus round three. What changes? What changes is actually the number of seats which are available. At the end of round one, there will be an n number of admits which will be rolled out. At the end of round two, there will be an n number of admits which will be rolled out. So round three will have their own limitations in terms of the number of seats that they are applying to. But that's about it. The criteria for taking up the admissions or for benchmarking the applicants will not change. So if we assume that the criteria will remain the same across the 3 rounds, then applying in round three with a strong application will have an equivalent chance of you applying, a better chance for you applying in round one with a weaker application. So if you think you have a good GMAT score and you want to put up your application in round three, we have had admits in round three as well. There are admits in round three. The only thing is how strong is your application. That is the main difference in any of the rounds. Number of the seats being lesser, what we are talking about over here is close to 900 seats. So it's a huge number. So don't go with any of the hearsay. Just look at your candidature as an individual. Is it strong at R1, R2, R3, or let's say R1 next year? If it is R1 next year, actually from round 3 to R1 next year is hardly like 4 or 5 months. That is when you need to start working on your applications. So it's all a mental spacing that you have to build. If you are able to build that very clearly, if you have that clarity of where your career is headed, you can apply in any round. Vineet applied, reapplied this time and received the interview invite. Interview duration was around 1.15 and was confident about. Does long, no, it does not indicate anything. When you have an interview, you are only talking about you're only talking about your candidature, what you have presented to the application, in the application to your to the school, and the interviewers are trying to understand that better. So if you are confident about the process, and when you are done with the interviewers will rate you at a certain scale, and given that scale is good enough, you'll get into the process and you'll have an output at the end of, let's say, the application cycle. But as such, 1.15 hours of of the interview, or 40 minutes of the interview, or 20 minutes of the interview does not have any bearing as to whether you will get selected or you will not get selected. It's just that they want to know more about you, and they've been trying to understand more about the work that you have come up with. I have a GMAT score of 740, already have an MBA degree. So this is the second MBA degree that you're going in ahead with. Both engineering and MBA with 65 and work ex of 9 years. So Vineet, I think you have a strong profile. If you've had a good discussion in the interview, then just be assured that they will take a call as to where you stand on the interview front. Then the rest of the evaluation will be done by the adcom, and you'll have the results in let's say less than 15 days from now, maybe. So mid November is what they have suggested. Let's wait for that and keep us our fingers crossed, and all the best to you. Don't worry on the duration of the interview. None of this is an indication. Just wait for the results. Raj Rayani, what is your service fees? I'll be happy to share that with you. I need to know your profile. Please get in touch with us and connect with us with your specifics in terms of the work experience and your GMAT or GRE scores. What is your readiness for application? And we'll be happy to take it up. Abhi, the round 3 deadline is nothing that we can predict. The school will announce it, let's say 2 or 3 days down the line, once you have the round 2 deadlines getting over. So let's wait for that time. Assume that it will at least be 1 month from the date of the R2 deadline. It can be more than that as well. So getting the specifics from the school is the best way to go ahead. Please don't go with any predictions anywhere. Anish, if not shortlisted for the interview, will I be treated as a fresh applicant next year? No, Anish. If you have submitted your application, you have an application reference number, and you are not shortlisted, then you will, by the end of the cycle, receive a rejection email. And that means when you are rejected and you are applying the next time, you are a reapplicant. The only difference for you is that you will have to write one additional essay as compared to anybody else who's applying for the first time. Abhi, what services do you guys provide? So, Abhi, happy to share that with you. We do assist with the application assistance. That means your essays, anything on the LOR strategy, or the we start with the application strategy. We have a questionnaire that we'll be sharing with you, getting all the details on your work experience, all of your experiences, discussing and brainstorming at length, and then looking at what you need to discuss about in terms of what stories stand out. Then this is the application assistance. That means your essays, LOR, an application form, and then the interview preparation. We have a comprehensive interview preparation that we provide, so that takes care of end to end everything apart from your test scores. So once you're done with your GMAT or GRE scores, that is where we come into the picture. I hope that addresses your question. Thank you, Anish, and all the best for your application. Do keep us posted on how it goes. We'll be uh, interested in knowing that. Vineet, even about your interview, once you get the admit or the result from ISB, do get in touch with me. Let me know how it went. Varnika, by when do the round 2 interviews happen? So Varnika, you can assume that whenever there is the deadline for the application submission, you can expect the interviews to start between 20 to 30 or 40 days within that period. Exactly how the school will pan it out is announced by the school at the end of every cycle within a few weeks. So we'll wait for those announcements. That is how you can time up your preparation. Ishmeet, can you share the insights on the recommendation section? Do I have just to give the names of 3 or 4 people? No, Ishmeet, if you're applying to ISB, then you need only one recommendation letter. So you need one person's name that you can share over here. Get in touch with your recommender on time so that you are able to, he has the time to look into what the school wants them to address, and they will be filling it up from an online link that they will receive from the school directly. So you actually have no role to play in that. How will ISB get in touch with them? ISB will be sending them an email as soon as you enter the details on the portal, the application portal that you have. How does this entire thing work? So you go to your application portal, you create your ISB login, you start filling up your application. Then there is a section for recommenders or referees. That is where you enter the details of your referee, your relationship with the referee, and an automatic email shoots out to your referee, which will ask them to fill up a recommendation for you. It will have a bunch of questions that they need to answer. Once they answer that and submit that, you will get a notification within your application portal that your recommendation has been submitted. So this is how the recommendation section works. I hope the question has been addressed for you. I thought we were supposed to give more than one. No, Ishmeet, just need to identify one person and you need to give one person. ISB application for the PGP does just requires one recommendation letter. For PGP Pro, there are two recommendation letters. For PGP Max, there are two recommendation letters. But for PGP, there's just one that you need to give in. Guys, once again, please do keep on sharing your questions. I think I'll be just taking up a few more minutes and happy to address any questions for you. But we'll be closing by around another 5 to 10 minutes from now. Right. So, what works in your ISB essays, and what really is it that you need to go ahead with as a process? So, the first part of this process is self reflection. Don't rush with writing your essay draft directly. Spend some time, get your thoughts together, put in your stories together, and then work well in advance to reflect, to put in different versions and revisions of what stories you want to talk about. Have a plan and organize your thoughts before you start writing. Before you even start with your essays, you need to have an application strategy. You need to see how you stand with respect to the competition, who your competition is, what is it like. It is not a process which you can take lightly. You are competing for one of the most coveted schools in India. So this is something that will be very important for the application process. Then be authentic, be honest and genuine in presenting your narrative. Authenticity is going to be something that really helps you stand out. We underestimate authenticity, but when it comes to really putting your thoughts together and having your own unique style of writing, it is very important that you have your genuine self to put forward to the application committee. That you can do through the essays. This is the first opportunity for you. And then of course your recommenders will also be talking about you. So all of this together will be a 1+1 kind of a situation. Your resume or the application form plus your essays plus your recommendation and the academics and the GMAT score that you're coming in with, all of this together really puts forward your candidature to the school. So make sure that you are addressing each of the sections very very carefully. And in terms of, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And you drop in your questions to us on our website. You have an area where you can schedule a call. We'll be happy to take up those. And guys, please do like and share this video if you've found this useful. It will be very helpful for others as well if you like it. Ishmeet has a few follow-up questions. Can you share the recommendation that we've done? And I've headed the marketing team for a YC-backed startup, working directly with the co-founder. I was thinking I'll send this recommendation itself. Any suggestions? Yes, Ishmeet, if he's had direct visibility of your work, then it's a good idea. Now, again, the whole point that is important is your application strategy. So you have to decide as to what really puts you across as a strong applicant, and then go ahead with each of these sections. You are doing a good job. You're looking at your essays and your recommendation, all of these in their individual strength. So it might make a lot of sense of going ahead with this recommendation. Again, if I have to give very specific insights, then a lot of homework is required. But from what you say, it does seem reasonable. What would be the competitive score for GMAT focus? So, Ashutosh, this is a very important and a very relevant question. We've been researching on this, and since there are no benchmarks, the best benchmark that we have found is the GMAT to GMAT focus conversion that is given by the gmat.org website. So, just go to that, look at what a 710 to a 720 GMAT is like on GMAT focus. So what is different in GMAT and GMAT focus, apart from the score, is that there is a percentile difference also. So if it has been yes, Ishmeet, look forward to talking to you. Go ahead and schedule a free consultation. Happy to discuss it over a call. So, Ashutosh, coming back to your question, if it is a 710 GMAT, it will translate into two scores on the GMAT focus depending on the percentile that you score. And similarly, a 720 would also be two scores on the GMAT focus edition. Since there are no benchmarks, the best way to compare your scores with respect to the school averages is to pick up the school average on the normal GMAT and see how it fares on the GMAT focus edition. We'll be coming up with new insights and research, once this testing starts, and once we have more people going in for it. But for now, I think it is very reasonable to assume that look at the GMAT score, let's say 710, and look at what it fares on the GMAT focus edition in terms of the percentiles. There will be two scores, and then just go ahead with whatever you score and submit it. Since it is a trial and testing, and schools are also going to be coming up with new averages later on, it's slightly an open ground and a gray area right now, so would not really comment on it. The best benchmark is the conversion table. Go ahead with that. I think that should suffice. So, guys, if there are any more questions, I am online for another 5 minutes. Please do share your questions. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. And happy Diwali to all of you. We'll be looking forward to discussing your applications. In case you have any specific questions that you want us to address, feel free to reach out with your profiles. You can get in touch with us on WhatsApp. The website is the best way. Just drop in a message and we'll connect with you. And all the best for your application cycle.